Welcome to the Startup Grind.
First of all, thank you for joining us for this a little bit more special, let's say, Startup Grind, because from the first hand it's on a topic which is not so well known. I mean, the art industry. Well, it's not an art industry, art world. Let's call it art world. Mm-hmm. It's nicer. And then also, especially Itondo, you are linking your experience from the brick and mortar with the online world a little bit. But first I would like to start a little bit, if you could explain us in a nutshell what the art world, the gallery world is, because I guess it's a little bit something special. We know galleries, we know museums, we know shops where we can buy art. So what's a little bit, what is the main business of a gallery?
The main business of a gallery is to represent artists. I mean, you can have a secondary gallery, secondary market gallery, which is reselling work that's been sold previously. Or you can have a gallery like we are, where we're selling primary market work. So we're working directly with the artists and we represent them. And part of what we do is to try and place them into public museums. We advise clients on, if they're new to collecting, we tell them how they might like to go about collecting, what's important, how to build a collection, how to care for a collection. We work with corporations as well who are looking to buy art for their offices or build a corporate collection. In Australia, we have self-funded superannuation funds where you can invest in art as part of your pension fund. Okay. So we also advise clients on what's investment quality and what's not investment quality. Plus we do appraisals, yeah,
that's a little bit what in the gallery. And here, for example, now this is a little bit the brick and mortar part, which you are coming from. But how did you come for the Itondo? I mean, the application, was it because you felt the need of it, or was it something which was coming because there's a relationship with what you were doing before? How the idea of Itondo came on? Let's call it like that.
Well, I guess we were talking together because a lot of our clients we were based in Adelaide, and a lot of our clients were in Sydney and Melbourne, and they would not come into the gallery, so they wouldn't visit. And so we're dealing through digital image, but they know us and trust us, so it wasn't an issue. And the ones that were, say, buying for to, say, decorate because they just renovated, would send photos to us of their apartment or their house and their wall and say, look, here's the space, here's about how big it is. And then we would send back suggestions, and we were doing these Photoshop mock-ups, and I think I got home one day and just said, I'm a bit sick of doing this, because it's not an ideal solution, because the measurements and scale are always approximate. And if they've taken a picture of their wall at an angle, then of course trying to get the perspective of the artwork correct, and while retaining the proportions of the work and the scale of the work is basically impossible. You can't do it. So we said there's got to be a technological solution for this, and we started hunting around for something, and we settled on augmented reality to solve the problem.
And was it a challenge for you, because it's a different kind of business you have been in? Was it fast? Was it easy? Or would you say it took a little bit some time in order to step there?
I think because we had a clear idea of what we wanted, and we also had some feedback from our clients. We knew the market. I think it was the conceptual phase was pretty easy, because I guess we see it as a tool, like a plumber uses a pair of pliers or a plumbing tool. So it's not the tool maker that invents the tool. No, it's the plumber who drives it, yes, and who says what tool I need. And that's the same with us as well. I guess we came from the art world. We understand the art market. We understand our client needs, and then we had the concept. We shopped around, and we found an IT partner who was able to understand us, and then to translate our concept into, I guess, into IT language. And we were able to work very closely with this partner to sort of I guess, what we had in mind and had put on paper to make it reality on people's phone and app.
Was there, I mean, because I guess there was or still is a transition phase from your traditional business to the app business or this kind of place. How did you go about it? Because I mean, you are coming from a business you understand quite well, and then you are moving in the business which is linked to it, but it's a little bit different. Was it easy to do the switch, or took it some trial and error to go about it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. There was trial and error, of course. There is a learning curve.
Sometimes steep.
Sometimes steep, but I guess
talking to developers. Oh my goodness.
I know, but this is, I guess, what what makes it interesting.
Yeah. And from the, let's say so, from the resource side, because you had also to commit some resources, time resources, but I guess also probably some financial resources to get it up and running. Did you do it? Did you finance it by bootstrapping, by your former business, and then you moved on? Or,
yes, we're self-funded.
Yeah,
we're completely self-funded.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we bootstrap. Yes, yes.
And the business model, which is fine. I mean, it's nice to have the app. I mean, you had the need and for yourself, but then to come up with a business model behind, which is generating revenues. How did that come along? Was it straightforward, plain vanilla, or did you had some market analysis or some feedback in order to really find a business model which is viable? How did that go around?
Well, we looked at various possibilities. We did research and we talked to people. We also, in Adelaide, talked to a consulting firm. And I guess we could have approached it in two ways. One is get the app user to pay. So when they download, they pay a little fee. Or the second model would be get the art galleries and artists to pay. Or a third model perhaps would have been to ask for a commission. So every time someone sells a work, or the work is sold through us, we would, I guess, ask for a commission. We ended up, for a number of reasons, to go for the second model I explained, meaning that those art professionals who would like to present their work through Itondo on the app, they pay a flat fee.
Okay, and there was the model. Did they accept it straightforwardly, or did you have to do some to convince them a little bit that they eventually use it or subscribe to it? I don't know the correct term, but was it? How did that go? I mean, the acceptance level from your targeted clients. They are your clients, in fact, if I understand it.
Yes.
Was it straightforward, or did you have to do a lot of convincing work in order to get them on it?
I think, how can I put it? I think it depends, which is probably not a good answer. It depends. I think it depends on the openness of the gallery or the artist to new technology and to their own clients. I think what we can see in the art market is that it's there are the traditional buyers who probably, I don't know, 60 plus, perhaps in this age group, who have done things always a certain way. So they go into a gallery, they buy an artwork, or they go to an art fair. They take their time. They look up when does the gallery have opening hours, and they walk in. And then there is the new type of buyers who are perhaps a little bit more time poor, but more technologically savvy, who have expectations. They expect additional information. Even if they buy in a shop, they expect it online. They want to go online via apps. And if we talk to galleries or artists that have experience with this type of client, then it's not a problem. It's really is a no-brainer. If we talk to galleries perhaps with a little bit more traditional type of clientele, it's difficult to convince them or to show them the advantages of Itondo as a sales tool.
I think one of the things too is that the traditional type of gallery business owner that Dirk is talking about, they say, oh no, we sell art through our relationships. Our clients don't use the internet. And I just quietly laugh into my sleeve because I know that they do use the internet. Even high net worth individuals are sitting there on looking at Instagram and all sorts of avenues to try and discover what's new. And they're not loyal to any one gallery anymore. They shop around. They're using the internet as a research tool.
Yeah, of course.
So it's just an absolute fallacy to believe that the old business or doing running a gallery, that it can survive. It's just not viable.
But if you look at it, for example, if you go to the TEFAF or so, I mean, you see a lot of art. You also see quite a lot of, how shall I say, price tags. And is here a little bit the same that your clients, I mean, either the artist or the art gallery, they want to be put in a certain category? Or do you say, okay, no, we don't do any categories, we are just an open market place, or Agora, where we have eventually the interested end user, and then the artist or the gallery, they have to do their sales pitch and try to differentiate themselves. How do you do?
There is a level of curation to the our partners, the galleries or artists, independent artists that are on Itondo, because I think you need to have a minimum standard of quality of work in order to attract traffic to your site and to build a sense of trust and interest. Curation can be, when you're dealing with such a broad market, is actually really difficult because you have to put your own personal taste aside. So what we do with our gallery is very different to how I curate, for example, for Itondo, because it's not my taste necessarily, but that's okay because I know there are people out there that like that, and these galleries or artists serve a particular need. But we don't deal with hobbyists. They've got to be professionally run galleries and professionally run, independent artist studios.
And is it mainly paintings, or can it also be sculptures or some?
Not sculpture at the moment because, we could theoretically upload.
Because
sculpture.
you say it's augmented reality.
Augmented reality, because with the beautiful thing about augmented reality for two-dimensional works, paintings, photographs, drawings, prints, is that the galleries and artists already have the JPEGs of their work anyway. So it's quick and easy for them to upload. There's no special technology or scanning that they need to do. They can work with what they already have. With sculpture though, the technology is possible, but you need to scan the object in 3 dimensions. So you've got to scan it from around and then from top and bottom so that the object can be rotated in real time. Most galleries, you can do this with, say, 2 DSLRs and then some special software to knit all the images together. But that's a very time-consuming process, and most galleries, unless you're a big gallery with a lot of staff, they just don't have the time and resources to do it. So we haven't gone down the 3D route yet. We're staying with two-dimensional work until the scanning solution becomes quicker and easier.
So this means you were aware that most of your clients, they had already let's say the pictures or the artwork in the correct format, and you didn't have to convince them or to tell them how to do it. I guess that was a huge step.
It's forward. Just like uploading, the Backend is just like uploading their images to a website. It's an easy process, so it's not something that they have to, it's not a new skill they need to learn, so they don't need to expend energy on doing that. Whereas if they were doing 3D, they would have to. Although, of course, you know, three-dimensional stuff starts getting interesting if you're talking about maybe antiques and furniture. So it's something we'll consider down the track, but not for now.
Yeah, because it's more of higher value and so on. But the other thing is, if you look at it, do the galleries understand the difference, for example, between Itondo and then other apps like Sedition or so? Do they grasp the difference, or do they just say, okay, I use it because it's, for me, it's a platform I can distribute, I just get it mainstream in order to communicate it? Do they see the added value for them which is provided by Itondo?
The ones that come on board do, yes. But it's one of those things that I think, because augmented reality is such a new technology, people are still trying to work out that it's more than just, say, Pokemon Go or Snap or something like that, that it's actually a very powerful visualization tool. So I think once they understand that concept and they use it, it works really well for them. I mean, we use it in our own gallery, and we've found it to be a very powerful sales tool. It's not a marketing tool, it's a sales tool.
Okay, it's real.
So, I mean, there is the marketplace, which is your marketing kind of channel side, but the app itself is a sales tool because it's a visualization. You know, their client can see exactly what that work's going to look like on their wall. So it gives them buyer certainty, it gives them the confidence to go forward and say, yep, I love it, I'll buy it, I know it's going to fit when I get it home.
And the other thing is, I mean, you had the gallery, the business in Australia, and I mean, what you explained us downstairs during the visit of the exhibition here. But we are here in Luxembourg, and Australia is down under, let's call it like that. What's the link to Luxembourg?
Well,
if I may ask.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, it's our nice Indian summer,
that's right,
of course.
That's right, and the people are very nice.
Well, it comes down to the internet, really, doesn't it? So, research, business.
Yeah, I think so. When we decided we needed to launch that in Europe, because the art markets are big and Australia is far away and the art market is regionally, we looked into different countries. So we looked into the Netherlands, Switzerland and Luxembourg. And we did some research and did a business case, and then we decided to come to Luxembourg.
Wow.
And I guess, I don't know, there are a few reasons. I guess we thought that if we are, I don't know, rightly or wrongly, if we were, for example, a French business or a German business, maybe the galleries in the UK would say, oh, they're from France, they're difficult, or vice versa. If we, so a Luxembourgish business is neutral, and then also geographically, it's nicely located between three important, or next to three important markets. The German art market happens predominantly Cologne, Düsseldorf, Aachen area. Then to the UK is not far. France is near Paris, 2 hours. And so
Amsterdam,
Maastricht as well. So that was the second reason, geographically. And then at the time we thought, and we're not sure what happened, but we thought at the time there was an initiative by the government to attract arts-related businesses. So we thought, if there is an initiative, there might be an ecosystem. And then after we'd come here, we wanted, and this website had disappeared. So we're not sure maybe it was a misinformation, maybe we were. So that was the third reason, but the third reason has disappeared now. So these were the main three reasons why we ended up coming to Luxembourg.
And was it easy to come here, to set it up, and also, I mean, the project is up and running for some time now. Did it a little bit realize what your expectations, I mean, about the closeness, the geographical closeness and so on, did that realize?
Yes, it came into fruition.
Oh, great.
Really,
I have to say though, I mean, as an Australian, I find to set up a business in Australia is very quick and very easy and relatively inexpensive. By contrast, Luxembourg, on the life side, private side, settling here as a resident is very easy and very efficient, and they're great help. But the business side of things takes a while. You're back and forth between notaries, and there's a real process that you've got to go through that personally I found quite frustrating because it's just so quick in Australia, and it's much more expensive as well.
Yeah, that's right. As you also say, in Luxembourg we also have not the quality and standard, but the standard of living is high, so it also has a certain price tag. But the other thing is when you are thinking about art or artists, you're also thinking about the copyright, intellectual property. Was there an issue at any point in the project, or
No, there wasn't. No.
You didn't have.
We looked into IP box, but there has been some discussion between. We worked with an Australian law firm and then with a law firm here, and it wasn't quite clear. They weren't clear if it qualifies or not. So we let that one go because also, I mean, we're self-funded. So you can only go so far before it becomes too expensive, and then you might just say, "Look, don't worry about it. It's perhaps we look at it at a later stage." So IP or IP box was no consideration.
And then copyright protection, because I can imagine it's virtual. The art is there. I mean, it's very, as you said, it's a good quality representation of the painting, the picture, what it is, the work of art, and it could be copied and used for something else, like it is so often on the.
Are you talking about the art being copied or the software being copied?
No, not the software. Mainly the piece of art, for example, that somebody could use it, and instead of paying the royalties to the artist, he could use it in the presentation.
But that's just a risk of being online. I mean, you can't avoid that. What we do have in place, though, is that when an artist or a gallery comes on board as a partner, we have an agreement with them, and part of that agreement is that they say that they have the authority or they're authorised to publish those works through Itondo, that they have copyright and there are no copyright infringements, that they're not doing anything illegal, all of that other sort of stuff to protect us. But you just can't prevent people from.
No, that's for sure.
Copying stuff off the web. It's there's an artist in America, Richard Prince, who's made an absolute fortune out of taking images from Instagram and then selling them for huge amounts of money. They've tried to take him to court over it, the people who own those images, but they've lost. So it's a very difficult area.
Yeah, that's right. And on the other thing is, I mean, if you look at the application, it's an application, Itondo. If you look at the application, have you done many iterations since the first version, or is it was it straightforward?
We're about to deploy a new. What are we up to?
4.
1.4.
It's very stable. It was very stable from the very beginning. We were very lucky with our development team that we chose. There was the issue with iOS 10 last year, but I think that happened to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what we did is we now, you learn from it. So we looked into iOS 11 before it got released, and so there were a few issues. We ironed them out. But this is not something particular to us. I think everybody out there.
It's just that, but there's no added functionalities. Which came from your client base. Or
maybe this was one of the learning curves we went through. We decided we'll do it right from the beginning, rather than going to the market quickly and then adding on as we move along. Looking back, maybe, and we spoke to people in the ecosystem here, and they said, "Oh no, you go to market and then you test, blah blah blah, and you add on." We had everything. We were really ready to go, and I think what we decided is to leave it another 6 months, and then have a proper product rather than going the quick and
dirty way. And the other thing is, I mean, you come to Luxembourg, and how is it? Do you develop it here, or do you have developers somewhere else? How does it work? Because there is always this talk about the shortage of skills and so on.
Yeah, our developers are in Poland. It's a Polish company, and we started working with them when we were still in Australia. So
So we've been working with them now for nearly 3 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's good. So that's really, and you don't feel this so-called skill gap, which everybody's talking about in Luxembourg, because you just say, okay, the world is flat, it's global, just do it. I mean, if you take the companies which are the flagships of Luxembourg, like if you take Skype, it's the same. I mean, they had the development there, the marketing there, the hosting there, and so on. So for you, it was not an issue, let's call it like that. No.
But I mean, we hear from our developers that they have trouble from time to time. You know, there is, I think, a general shortage of, say, iOS programmers or, you know, whatever. So I think that's because the technology is just expanding at such an exponential rate that we just don't have enough programmers to service the need. But thankfully, we haven't really been affected by that. We've been very lucky.
Okay.
So.
But on the other side, coming back a little bit to the business side, I mean, you've bootstrapped it yourself, financed it, but what is the business model of Itondo? What are the revenue streams, let's call it like that? Not the amounts, but what are the revenue sources, streams?
So there's those who want to present their work through Itondo. Then it can be white labeled, and it can be licensed by museums. And these are our 3 revenue streams, and we have, according to our business plan, we're within our business plan. So we have all 3 revenue streams.
And they all accepted, the acceptance was good right from the start, more or less.
Yeah, I think it's the same what we saw with the artists, for example, with museums. It's the same thing. I think it depends on who, how can I put it? What is the approach of new technology for those in charge? If museum decision makers, let's call it like that, are not open to the changing behavior of potential museum goers. If they expect that they come in, I don't know, Tuesday, they're closed on Mondays, aren't they? So Tuesday to Saturday between 9 and 6, and if there is La Nuit des Musées once a year, and this attracts everybody because we're open until 10, if this is the general attitude, they will not look at Itondo favorably. However, if they are museum decision makers who understand that people are on apps, 9 out of 10 people who go online use apps, that people would like to look at a nice artwork, say a Van Gogh, at 11 o'clock at night in their environment or on their phone, that they, I don't know, even if they are in the museum, they would still like added value, added information online through their phone, not through a machine from the museum. So if museum decision makers understand that, they're very open to Itondo.
There's a bit of a, I guess, division in the art world between, like what Dirk's just pointed out, those that actually understand how the world is changing and how technology is playing a much greater role in the way we present culture and we participate in culture. And then you've got those that are just trying to sort of stay back in the 20th century, and they're denying that consumer behaviour is changing, and it's changing rapidly. So the ones that are more open to it and they can see the potential of how technology can really make collections and art accessible anywhere, anytime, they get excited about it. But the museum directors or the gallery directors who are trying to control their visitors or their clients are very wary. Because they're trying to cling to something that doesn't really exist anymore. I had a really interesting discussion with the director of digital for a really big gallery, commercial gallery in New York, and I explained to him what Itondo does, that you can visualize artwork to scale on a wall, it's a sales tool, etc. He got it like this, and he was really excited about it. And he said, great, I'm going to go and talk to the sales directors and I'll get back to you. The sales directors, however, were not quite at that stage because they said, we're still a high-touch company. And this is what I was saying earlier, where they are basically denying the user the way their clients are actually engaging now with art. So they will come around eventually, because even the big luxury companies now are realizing that their clients are all online. So if you've got Chanel, you've got Louis Vuitton, everyone going online. They're starting to use augmented reality. They're trying to find ways to bring digital experiences to their clients, because they know that's where their clients are. So it's actually a really exciting time for, I think, for culture and fashion and all that sort of these businesses and interior design and all sorts of things.
But if you look at your plan or the development, would you say that Itondo, after, I mean, if it really moves on, you will also get more employees, more salespeople and so on? Because for the time being, how does it work? I mean, you have the links to the art world, you do the groundwork, and then it's by word of mouth, I guess. Yeah. And then
social media.
Yeah, social media is important, and I'm not sure if you heard of the concept of art fairs, and if you can pardon me. Yeah. So we go to a lot of art fairs because there are a lot of galleries, so we do cold sales as well. So it's word of mouth, social media, again, plays a big role, and art fairs, cold sales. Then galleries who use it, they talk to their clients, or they have their gallery network, and they, I mean, it's not competitive, the art, I mean, galleries, some galleries don't talk to each other, but a lot of them talk, especially younger galleries, they talk to each other. So then it's through our, we call them partners, our Itondo partners, own network, that it spreads. So I guess this is how we go to market, how we distribute.
But that's, and also on the other hand, I mean, you self-funded it so far. Do you think that there will be a moment in time sooner or later that you would say, okay, now more resources would enable you to get to the next step?
Of course.
Do you foresee that, or do you say, okay, man, let's do it how we do it now? The revenues is coming on, and then when the time is right, we will use it. Or do you want to move a little bit faster, grasping the opportunity for that of the time being? How do you foresee
it was interesting last Startup Grind when Bert talked and had his talk, and I think he said it's what you've got to decide, isn't it? You either sort of, I don't know, chase funding, or you chase clients. I mean, to put it in really in a nutshell. And I think his journey was quite interesting, where he sort of went from this to that and back, and I think this is the same for us, isn't it? When we went home,
both are very time-consuming endeavours. You know,
Yes.
chasing funding takes a lot of time and energy, and that's a skill set in its own. And then chasing clients, you know, our clients, to get them on board, to keep generating revenue. You know, as a small startup, you do get torn. You know, it's hard.
And we decided for chasing clients at the moment.
Yes.
So,
which is good.
But of course, if the opportunity came, we
to
would
get
say
to next,
no.
to the next
we're
step.
of course open, and it would accelerate definitely. Definitely.
And for the time being, you said okay, Luxembourg for geographical reasons. Did the geographical scope, did you enlarge it, or is it for the more the Benelux of France, German side, or is it really worldwide now?
It's always been
worldwide. Yes.
Wow.
And our if you look at
as you said,
partners,
New York and so on.
They're really from US, UK, China, Macau, Tokyo, Australia, of course, Netherlands, Switzerland.
Wow.
Where else? Bulgaria, Italy. So they're from.
It's amazing. And there, it's something. These are your clients, but how about the end user, the clients of your clients? Was the acceptance level also very easy? was the return you got from your clients positive right from the start?
Well, it's getting faster and faster. I mean, we're noticing quite a strong growth now in app downloads, which is really pleasantly surprising. And I think part of it is because people are starting to become more familiar with the idea of what augmented reality is. So they're exploring how this might work, and also the galleries that are actually promoting Itondo as a tool into their client base are also getting more of their clients starting to work with and use the app as a tool. So that's been really interesting. In the early days, though, it was really hard because we started from absolutely nothing, but it's now growing, and China's been a big app market for us as well.
I mean, I don't know, to give you a few figures is, if you want to compare it, popular gaming apps have roughly 1,000 downloads per day.
Yeah.
We have on average 100. So we're pretty proud.
Wow.
Yep.
That's not bad.
We're pretty proud of that.
That's really good.
Yes.
But it's interesting in your journey is that you came from the gallery business, which is a little bit more the traditional bit, and then you really choose a technology which is also a nascent technology. Okay, augmented reality has been out there, but it has never really only started to be using in the last 5 or 10 last years, and there was a certain risk in it. It could have worked or not, or that eventually it became so technical that you lost a little bit the track of it, and then also eventually somebody else would take it up and pick it up, and so did that cross your mind at some point, or was it just you really the, how shall I say, the enthusiasm of the founder and of the entrepreneur of doing it?
I think it was the enthusiasm or naivety.
No, that's positive. You have to be naive nowadays.
But I think had we come from an IT point of view, if we were IT people, we probably would have approached differently. Would have said, augmented reality hasn't been around. Pokemon Go hadn't happened at the time.
No. There was very little around when we started developing. 3 years ago, there was the odd app here and there that was doing augmented reality, and yes, there were a couple of art apps as well, but they weren't terribly good, and that their user experience was awful. Ours is really good because we've spent a long time developing this, and we've worked with a great team, so it's very stable. You've got the live mode, you've also got the save photos mode, so it gives a user absolute flexibility. But I don't think we realised when we started the concept of augmented reality. I understood immediately, but I don't think we realised when we started just how complex the technology really is, and some of the development hurdles that we had to sort of overcome as we started adding, search functions and other features to the app. We had, not we because we weren't programming, of course, but we had to be careful in the way that it was being developed to make sure that it was stable, because stability is really important, and also speed of the app is really important as well. So all in all, though, we're very happy with the process, but I think had we not been naive when we'd gone into it, I think we would have approached it very differently. So.
And I think sorry if I missed it,
go ahead.
Steve.
Go
I
ahead.
think we also approached it, and this turned out to be a positive, a strength for us. We approached it from the user side, as in from someone who might want to use it because he or she needs to decorate or would like to decorate a room. So and we made the technology fit or follow the user experience rather than the other way around, perhaps, where you did something that is technologically perhaps possible, but then you sort of need to explain and stuff and all. And I think that turned out to be an asset for us.
But then also, because we understand the gallery business, we've built a platform that galleries and artists are able to use as a tool to sell and promote their art. But as Dirk said, it was really coming from that user experience, because if you can't get them on board, then you're lost.
Exactly.
So.
But on the other side is now with hindsight, I mean, you had the traditional gallery business. You have now really the augmented reality business and app business and so on. Do you sometimes would say, oh, it was nice, I would like to do a little bit the gallery business again in the traditional way, or are there some moments or some feelings?
Well, I mean, the gallery business is not actually an easy business.
No, therefore,
it's a very challenging and demanding and sometimes very frustrating business.
Of course,
so
yeah.
I don't think we have any romantic delusions of what we used to do full time, because we still do the gallery business as well, because we know that it's also tough but in a different way. So,
but it's changing. I mean,
it is.
The industry is changing, and galleries.
Yeah.
I mean, art buyers have changed.
Exactly.
And galleries need to change
Yeah.
in order to stay with their clients. So I guess us looking back, and it would not have worked. I think
It's just nostalgia.
Yeah, we would have been by now out of business.
Okay, great.
And this is what happens also in the market. What you can see, that smaller galleries, perhaps like ours, mid-sized galleries, they can't afford the rents anymore because they're sticking to this old business model that is broken. So I think for us at that moment, in hindsight, even though it was risky, yes, and it cost sleepless nights and the odd domestic perhaps as well. But I think it was the right decision to take, because I think we would struggle now with our old business model to stay in the industry.
But on the other side, I mean, would you say that it's positive? Of course, most of the founders we had a fireside chat and so on. They all said, even Bert said it the other day, it's important to have a partner in your business. For him, it was his twin brother. I mean, you also are partners. Would you say that's positive, or was there were there some times where sometimes would say, okay, would be easier if there weren't this relationship? If it were only a business relationship but not the life relationship.
I think that's actually really hard, because I can't imagine it being otherwise, because we haven't actually known it otherwise. But I think there are pros and cons. You know, when you're either siblings or you're married, as we are, because you're in a very close relationship, you're always together. So you can't just leave it behind and leave your partner at the office. But I think the upside of it, though, is that both of us have got a lot invested in the company. So it's not something we're just going to walk away from. Everybody partners, whether they're strangers that meet in a bar and have a great idea and think, yeah, let's go do it. Everybody's going to have conflict when they're in business, because there always comes a time when one person wants to go this way, the other wants to go that way, and you need to find a way to resolve it. And thankfully, we're very good at doing that. So we do manage to work through difficulties and disagreements to find a resolution. So,
okay, thank you. Are there maybe some questions? No? Yeah?
I have two questions.
Yeah, please.
The first one was, I was just wondering if you ever thought about making the app compatible with Android. And two, we've talked about the app as a sales tool. I was just wondering, as you know, you probably foresee this type of question coming, but have you envisioned or thought about the possible links of your app in the future to the field of education, and not just having it as a sales app, but for students to be able to use perhaps in decorating or creating their own art gallery at a school, perhaps, or even selling their own work. I know you talked about working with professional galleries, but I was just wondering if you thought.
Sure. Do you want to take the Android question?
Sure. Android.
The hard ones.
Yeah, I know, it's the easy one. Android, yes, we have thought about it. When we started out, we did research into art buyers Are they Android people or are they Apple people? And the research we found said that people who are engaged in some form or another in art are more Apple people rather than Android people. So we decided to go Apple. And also we got the advice from our developers that apparently Android there's not one Android, it's not a confined environment like Apple. So it's a bit more complex apparently, hence it would be more expensive. So you would have to decide, is it going to be a Samsung Android or... so we decided we'll stay with Apple. A possible target audience uses Apple. We can control the costs and the developers can control the environment. But if this person came, and this probably fits in with the acceleration, what we talked about earlier, if we were able to accelerate, then of course Android must come.
And particularly for Asia Pacific, Android would be very important. So, and Android does have a growing presence in the US, but again, our research, and we do keep an eye on this, seems to bear out that the majority of art people do tend to be more iPhone users than Android users. So and we're not really getting that much demand anyway from partners wanting Android. I think in all of the people we've spoken to, we've probably had maybe half a dozen that have asked about Android. So that doesn't really warrant going out and spending the huge amounts of money that it would cost to develop an Android platform. So.
Yeah, and I think they also feedback to us that even they may have an Android phone, they realize their clients may not. So, and the education?
Education. I think there's really great potential for Itondo in working in education, and this is something that I am very keen to talk to museums about as well, because I see this because I've got a background in museums as well, and I see the potential to use Itondo's augmented reality functions in a way that would enable big collections or important collections to be made accessible to classrooms as a teaching tool. Because one of the key parts of understanding an artwork is understanding its scale. So when I was a student going through school and then art school, this was pre-internet and we learnt from books. So all of these collections that I'm now able to visit in Europe and see the works in the flesh, I'm beginning to understand for the first time in terms of its scale, because I've only seen them reproduced in books. If I'd been able to see that to scale on a wall, I probably would have had quite a different understanding of what that artwork is and what it means. And this is something I've started talking to museums about for education things. If a Department of Education wanted to develop a platform for their visual arts syllabus, I think that was fantastic, and I'd love to talk to them about it. So I think there's huge potential in augmented reality for education. So does Tim Cook, by the way. So.
And I think we submitted a concept, and I think I can say that, to a big museum for the education department. And what is possible, you use the app as it is, and you visualize the work, but then you can tap on the work and it comes up with extra information, or it links you to somewhere else. So this is all technologically possible. I guess then again the question is how willing, perhaps able, but how willing are those decision makers in museums to give it a go, I guess. Or
it's also a question of funding for them though, because the cost of running museums is very high. So to develop an app specifically for this kind of function, I guess they've got to go out and do their own fundraising to be able to do it. But they're definitely watching, they're watching the market, and they're interested in how augmented reality can assist in interpreting their collections for sure. So,
Thank you.
But on the other side, for example, that could also then enable them to have some kind of virtual art fairs instead.
Yes.
You are there and then you have the artist, and as you say, you see it in a real scale. Right.
And we know that some of our partners do that. If they go to an art fair, or when they go to an art fair, they let their clients know, and then the client see with Itondo you could see a visualize work live, but also on photos to scan. So then they invite their clients to take photos of their home, and they come to the art fair and they see this work live, but they can visualize it at the same time, so they don't have to take the work home, or because they may not live in Brussels or something. And again, they can make the decision faster whether they want to buy it or not. So
it's also useful for galleries. It's very expensive to transport work to art fairs. So some of them use Itondo as a way of virtually, I shouldn't be using virtually because that confuses it with VR, but of digitally displaying inventory which they've got back in their gallery on their stand. So again, because it's to scale, so they don't need to have the work there necessarily, so they can sort of expand their art fair offering.
So they pay for a few square meters and they can have more square meters, in fact.
And
indeed, and because it's very expensive, you're looking at least, for a small art fair, you're looking at around 10,000 at least to attend, and so you've got to make that money up through sales, and a lot of galleries don't actually cover their costs, but there's such pressure on them to continue doing these rounds of art fairs. They need to find a way to economically increase what they're offering on the art fair, and Itondo is one way that they can do that if they want to.
That's good. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank you for this. Really, I mean, there was just a fire missing for the fireside chat. It's so cozy.